Warning. This episode includes heavy topics, such as suicidal ideation and a character heavily implied to have committed suicide off-screen. Please review the content warnings in the episode description. Stay safe out there. Deadwood Production presents Off the Deep End. Episode 13. The Closet. Part 2.
The door to the guest room swung carelessly open with no knob. I stared blankly at it. I would be lying if I said I moved fast, that I caught you in time. But I didn't. Though the bed was still warm and damp with sweat, you were long gone. It made no difference that I sat in that stupid room, half in shock and half asleep from my nap. I followed the trail of broken, rotting wood to what used to be our room. I came face to face with a wide-eyed Jude. She had at least 4 different blankets layered over her shoulders, courtesy of me, and behind her were the balcony doors, wide open. Her hair reacted to the humidity. Some of the rain got in and dampened the bed in the middle. Jude was saying something to me, gesturing in a panic, but none of it registered. I was still in shock. He'd gone out the balcony. There's no way to get to the ground without breaking something. Or maybe I just didn't remember.
What are you gonna do? He made a sound. We fell or jumped or he sounded really hurt and I didn't look. I should have. I'm a horrible friend. I could have stopped him. I could have done something.
She cried into my chest, and I held her. I didn't want to let go, but I did if only to look over the balcony. There was no sign of you. My thoughts reeled, trying to make sense of things. If that thing that wasn't you took over again, then you were probably too entranced by this so-called song to feel any pain. That's what I hoped anyway.
It's all my fault. It's all my fault. It's all my fault.
Jude, hey, look at me. None of this is your fault. It's mine. There's nothing you could have... I'm gonna go find him.
You can't go out there. It's
Doesn't matter. I'm going. Stay here.
No.
Jude.
No. I'm coming with you.
It's not a good idea for you
I'm not letting you do this alone. Asher's was my friend, too.
The point was moot. Jude was in no position to go anywhere, and we didn't have time to argue. You were out there somewhere, hurt and in danger, and I didn't know what to do. I couldn't make her stay put. I wouldn't. The house made the choice for me. Between us, the door to the bedroom slammed shut. Jude called my name, shaking the handle from the other side. It was locked. I thought of Abel in the basement. Tears gathered in the back of my eyes. But I didn't cry. I put my guilt to bed for the night. When I got you back, Ash, everything would be fine. Everything would be just fine. I dashed downstairs, blindly grabbed a jacket, slipped on the first pair of shoes I saw, and went outside. It had been raining so much and for so long, I barely felt it. I barely heard it. It didn't take long for me to guess where you went. There's only so many places for the thing puppeting you around to go. I ran to the beach, mud splattering on my shoes, your shoes, and pants legs. That's where you'd be. Of course it would. Waves crashed to the shore below, and there you were, standing on the cliff, facing the sea. The same cliff we used to jump from. We made it a game when we first learned to swim. Remember? Mom was afraid we'd hurt ourselves and drown when we showed her all the flips and tricks we could do, but Dad assured her that we were fine. We knew what we were doing. No one would get hurt. Not if we did it properly. Your back was to me, your leg and arm bent at a weird angle. You fell on them, didn't you? Did it hurt? Lie to me and tell me you didn't feel a thing, though your arms were outstretched as if you were trying to embrace the supposed song you kept talking about. You were close to the edge. Really close. Too close for comfort.
Ash? Ash? Come on, man. Enough of this. Come back inside.
I was crying then. It wasn't you in there. I know that now. How can you still not hear it? You whispered when I got close enough to hear. You were in awe. It's amazing, you said. I wish you could hear it. I inched closer. I wish. You trailed off, falling silent. That scared me. I put a gentle hand on your back, my fingers on the back of your neck.
Please, Asher, come back inside with me. Please?
Your body stayed in place, but you turned your head to face me in a way that looked painful. I was almost glad. The thing making you do this, whatever this was, had the mind to put on your glasses. You wouldn't see a thing otherwise. The thing staring through your eyes looked at me with blank elation. Then they cleared, and you, yes, you, the real you, came back. Just for a moment. You were unsteady, eyes shutting and reopening as what I imagined was the pain rushing in. You trembled with fear, eyes darting around. You weren't confused. You knew exactly what was happening. You knew I'd come find you. You knew I'd be too late. You looked at me, down at your hands for a long time. I grabbed onto your rain-soaked sleeve. You winced.
Ash, please.
Tears ran down your cheeks, and, with great effort, in the smallest voice, you choked. I can't. Then you turned back around and jumped. I ran down to the beach as fast as I could. I ripped off my jacket, your jacket, and dove in after you. Too many times the ocean threatened to drown me. But I found you, just like I said I would. Your body bumped against mine, and it could have been seaweed for all I knew, but I knew it wasn't. I knew it was you. I grabbed onto you and dragged you up and out of the water and onto shore. I don't know how I did it. I don't know anything. We both should have died then, but we didn't. We didn't. But you were in a bad way, Ash. I saw the extent of your injuries as you laid there, sprawled out on the wet sand, coughing up salt water. Your elbow was twisted at an awkward angle, and your right leg was broken at the ankle. Your glasses almost got lost in the waves, but I had them. I still do. Your mouth was moving. You were talking to me, but I wasn't fully there. I was crying, trying to breathe through the tears and the rain and the urge to vomit at the sight of you. I touched your head, your face. Your nose was bleeding. I will never get used to your blood. You were dying. You had been dying. I should have seen it then. I should have known. I didn't want to know. I wanted to pretend everything was fine. I wanted to find a made-up cure to make you better. I wanted to be the reason you were better. Why didn't I see it then? Don't, you said. You brushed my hands away with your good hand, not dismissively, but resigned. Don't fight it. You smiled. There was blood on your teeth. What the hell was there to smile about? Pain, you rasped. The pain. Then you said my name. I'd been ignoring the way it made me flinch the whole trip, but I couldn't help it then. I still can't now. Make it quick. I shook my head. I wish I didn't know what you were asking me to do. I'm asking you, you mumbled. Or maybe I'd imagined it. You have to. Please. You were asking me to do something I couldn't live with. I shook my head again and my tears fell on your nose and eyelids. You blinked them away. You kept smiling. I put my hands around your throat. You still smiled. You closed your eyes. God damn it. Isn't it? You began softly. You said nothing else. You were dead. I wish I'd read to you after all.
Clusters of dark, angry clouds headed our way. I had been quick to tell the captain, who in turn told the helmsman to reverse course before the storm came any closer. Shouts of battening down the hatches and securing the rigging, as well as anything and everything heavy could be heard below deck. Everyone got to work, and unlike the first time trouble came, the crew stayed calm. Relatively. Lee came to me while I helped some cabin boys fasten a container in the cargo hold into place. "Kel, what is going on?" she asked me, frazzled and alert, struggling with her sea legs. She may not have known the ways of the sea, but this storm was a first for everyone. I opened my mouth to inform her when there was an ear-splitting crack and a following twang from above us. The cabin boys left immediately. I moved to follow them, but behind me was Lee, meaning to follow me. I told Lee to get to the sleeping quarters and find something sturdy to cling to which she scoffed. I am tougher than I look. I did not doubt that. The wood holding the ship together rattled violently. I held onto Lee to keep us both upright, and just to hold her. The unrelenting waves would soon breach the hull and start filling the lower deck with water. It was inevitable, but I needed to help keep the ship intact until then. I needed to keep Lee intact as well. I went into the sleeping quarters, and Lee followed me inside, aiming to keep pushing her point that she could help, too. I had already made up my mind. Aside from her hammock being stationed next to mine, the ship's sleeping quarters were entirely unremarkable. No one was inside. Not even the heaviest of sleepers could rest with the ruckus. While we were close, I pressed my lips to Lee's eyebrow and quickly backed away through the door. She stepped forward and, before she could protest, I locked the door and scrambled up the stairs, swallowing my guilt. Reaching the upper deck, I saw the waves becoming taller and wider. A handful of the crew were carrying a limp man to the port side. In their arms was the captain, or what was left of him. His head was caved in, his fragmented skull having punctured his brain, his nose bashed to a bloody pulp. His eyes had burst and were running down his cheeks like tears. Then I saw what caused it. Against the whipping winds, the strongest men of the crew were trying to reattach the boom where it had snapped from its place at the base of the mast. Rain pelted us. It must have swung and struck the captain while he reduced the sails. His death would be the first of many. There was no time to grieve for him now. The storm pulled us deeper and deeper inside with its giant elemental hands, like a petulant child unwilling to part with its toy. The helmsman struggled to move the wheel. It was taut, and the ship had nothing to prevent it from going sideways, directly into the storm. I rushed in to aid the helmsman. Everyone else was preoccupied with fixing the boom or disposing of the captain's body. One could not keep a corpse on a ship, not unless there were no food stores left. The situation had not gotten so dire. Yet. The helmsman jumped when I touched his shoulder, and stayed tense when I held onto the opposite side of the wheel. I had thought with an extra bit of force, the wheel would loosen, but as the other crewmates would say, Lady Luck was not on our side. The storm successfully enveloped the ship within it, and with no way to steer, the strong winds pushed the ship back and forth, to and fro, spinning, lifting from side to side. The waves soaked us to the bone. The ship was falling apart behind me. From the corner of my eye, one crew member still persisting in the futile task of fixing the boom was taken by the wind and carried overboard. The railing he had been leaning on was gone. The clouds grumbled again, narrowly missing the ship as lightning struck. We were still swinging uncontrollably sideways, but just ahead was our salvation, the eye wall of the storm, a storm I had not been taught to navigate through. I had no visual on the helmsman, or anything that was not directly in front of me, but he too did not take his hands off the wheel. It was all either of us could do. Screams and bone-shaking thunder pierced my eardrums. I was nearly deaf, but at the same time, I could hear everything. What I failed to hear, however, was something hurtling toward the helm behind me. Despite the captain's explicit command, the deck had not been fully cleared. An unsecured crate, most likely, but I could not be sure until after someone unexpectedly tackled me to the ground. A familiar body wrapped themselves around me, and among the pandemonium, I heard a wet squelch and half a scream that was abruptly, brutally cut short. That was the last I heard from the helmsman. I looked upon the face of my savior. Lee's brown, unforgiving eyes stared back at me, less golden in the storm's haze. Her curls tucked to the side of her face. How could someone so beautiful exist amidst a phenomenon so utterly terrifying? Then, Lee slapped me. "Don't you ever," she said, pinning my shoulders down, partially shielding me. "Ever do that to me again." Despite the rain, I could tell she had been crying. And, despite her tone, I knew she was not truly angry with me. Still, I had a rebuttal. She did not understand that I wanted to keep her safe. Or perhaps she knew and was too stubborn to face it. She was frustrating like this, risking her life to be by my side. A stray tear landed on my cheek, and the words died in my throat. I did not fall in love with her complacency. Amidst the all-encompassing storm, the guilt did not resurface. But there it was. I nodded without a word. I did not realize until later, when the worst had already happened, that I was no different from my brother. I did the same thing to Lee he had tried to do to me. He shut me out, locked me in a place where I could not follow. What a wretched thing I was. Lee helped me up and turned away from the mess that was the helmsman. My brother helped the remaining men reduce the sails properly, if not to give us a fighting chance. They risked their lives in completing the task, their fellow crewmates succumbing to the wind's strength. Never in my life had I been surrounded by so much death. Above the roar of the storm was a resounding crack from below. My brother caught sight of me and gave me a nod, confirming to himself that I was alive, perhaps, before running below deck. There would be leaks. Leaks that needed to be patched before the storm got any worse. I no longer needed him to spare me a glance, and I no longer had the urge to follow him. Not anymore. I was just glad he was alive, and the thought brought me comfort as he vanished from sight. Then, the rain and the wind stopped. The waves lessened, but only slightly. Manageable. The afternoon sun peeked its head above a particularly dark cloud, and I knew exactly where we were. The eye of the storm. There would be no time to rest, but for the moment, the crew, what was left of us, sighed collectively in relief. Lee clung to me and exclaimed, "We're alive!" over and over again. She laughed in disbelief, and oh, what a wonderful sound it was. I let myself smile, if only briefly. We were alive. Although I did not want her to, Lee left my side and went back into the sleeping quarters while I stayed behind. I was slow to move. The world had come close to ending 1 minute, and was calm the next. My muscles could not untense. The eye of the storm was nothing, if not a false sense of security. A short respite from a disaster yet to come, but a respite the Blue Serpent and its crew desperately needed. For who knew how much more of a beating the vessel could take? I helped tend to the dead, and those who joined in this task did their dismal work in near silence. Cabin boys stared at the bodies of their friends, their grayed, still faces staring blankly ahead or upwards. The sight weighed on my heart. I do not miss that heavy sort of grief. I alone disposed of the helmsman's body, and looked around at who was left. Almost half the crew had perished. Manpower we could not get back. People we would not see again. My brother returned from the lower decks, as did some other members of the crew, and we flocked to him like lost sheep. Lee had not come up with them. I looked past the crowd to the stairway, restless and half listening to my brother's short speech. He would be taking over now that the captain's dead, and on a long list of duties that needed to be done to keep the ship afloat, he needed a team to... He never got to say. He was interrupted by the red devils coming up from the lower decks. I had not seen either of them during the storm, and I did not care. I had no time to wonder what they were up to. In front of them was Lee, struggling against the rough grip one of them had on her arm. The other had a knife trained at her back. My body moved before I had time to think. I pushed past the bodies between me and Lee, angry but terrified they would hurt her further. But my brother held a hand up, stopping me. He had already spoken more than he normally would that day, but he spoke again and asked,
"What is the meaning of this?"
The red devils exchanged a look.
"We have a reason to believe,"
the one holding the knife said, Our newest recruit here was the cause of the storm. The one who held Lee gestured to her with a shake. I bit the inside of my cheek, furious. The crew clamored in confusion, forming a tighter cluster to look upon the fiend. The shorter devil threw Lee down on the wet wood, tossing a pair of blood-stained undergarments beside her. I froze at the sight of them. The younger men remained confused, but the older ones knew what the substance was at once. Menstrual blood. My brother was stunned into silence. This woman has stowed away for months. The taller devil shouted over the clamor and waved his knife about. She has snuck in and masqueraded as one of us, and now she has overstayed her welcome. Look at what her being here has wrought. She is the cause of the destruction, of the loss of life. Our captain. She must be dealt with before we are all doomed. There were men who were still trying to process something as unfathomable as a woman being on board, and others who rushed to apprehend my Annalie. I came out of my stupor and used my body to shield her, just as she shielded me. Those devils had been waiting for any reason to get rid of us both. I would give them another. I undid the wet buttons to my shirt and, with a gulp, revealed my bindings. Better to give them what they wanted. Better to do so on my own terms. Shock passed through each man's face, some shifting to a rage at my perceived trickery. I raised my voice above the outrage and gave them my true name. Strangely, my shoulders lightened. The lies no longer needed to be maintained. Many looked to my brother for an answer, but he said not a word. His eyes were averted from me, and before I could address him directly, the deck erupted in discord. Lee looked more tear-stained than before, and she gazed upon me with apologetic eyes. I kneeled before her and pressed my forehead to hers. My warm-blooded heart beat loud enough to drown out the sound of the vitriol the crew spat. I knew what our fate would be even then. But death was not a being I feared. A battery of men viciously ripped us apart, and I cried out for them not to hurt her. I was held back by strong arms I could not break free from and dragged along with Annalie to the port side. They bound our arms and legs with thick rope. I spit in the face of the taller devil who still clutched his knife. He sliced my face, cutting deep. Annalie sobbed. My vision was obscured in a red haze. I heard my brother grunt and move aside to tie up my arms himself. Was he really letting this happen? Would he really let them do this to us? To me? Did our shared blood mean nothing to him? Few of the men had those same questions, but they were unanswered. A vote was taken. Throw us overboard or risk more of the storm to drop us off on the first shore they saw. Annalie pleaded for them to wait, to reconsider. I did not see the result of this vote, nor did I know how many had doomed us. But I did recall calling to my brother one last time. Silent tears made my open wound sting. But if I was to say my last words, it would be to him. Like a child, I asked, "Do you hate me, brother?" I whispered it, but he heard me. I could not see his face, but for the last time I heard his voice. "I do not hate you," he said, his voice low. "For I cannot hate someone I do not know." It was not the push, but his words that sent me falling over the edge of the ship, plunging me into the deep, enfolded into the ocean's embrace. Do you see, warm blood? My great sin was not my naivety, nor my readiness to trust those whom I convinced myself to be family. It was, in fact, believing that my brother and I were ever the same at all. The salt water burned. I lost sight of Annalie. We had separated. We would not die and leave the uncaring world of men together like I hoped. A world we could not make a dent in, though we did try. I sank deeper and deeper and deeper. Darkness overcame me, and my body broke under the deep sea pressure. I let the water fill my lungs as I wept. I waited for death to come for me. It never did. I suffered until it was all I knew. Days passed. How many I do not know. Hate burned the paper of my sanity. Betrayed, alone, undead. Both of my families were gone. My lover, lost. Bitterness was what I clung to. It kept me warm long enough for me to get used to the cold. My life, warm blood, did not start at my birth. It started at my transformation. A process that cannot be described in words. My clothes fell away, as did my mortal teeth, making room for sharper ones to grow. My bound feet fused into a long iridescent tail. The open wound on my face healed, and the darkness revealed all under its cover. The first thing I saw with my new eyes was a corpse. One I recognized. Annalie. I did not mourn her. Not then. I sank my teeth into her dead flesh and consumed every part of her, bones and all. I took my time. I savored the sweet taste of my first meal. I loved her. I was starving. The second thing I saw was the blue serpent. Pieces of it that sunk to the deep. Bodies of the mortal men who failed to eliminate me, though my brother was not among them. I ate them, too. Brain and bones and all. I know not why the ocean has chosen me, but I am not one to refuse a gift. The fable I so dearly adored became my reality. The monster people speak of when they stray too far into the water. The serpent that lurks in the deep. What eats naughty children when they do not behave. Perhaps it always had been. Or perhaps my tale of woe is the true fable. But then, who is left to say it is false? There are no other sides. I am the sole teller. It is me and me alone. Has been for centuries now. My dismissal is not an absence of grief. Every morsel of flesh and inch of bone I consume tastes of Annalie. She is not a flavor that could ever be forgotten. As I refuse to leave her, she will not leave me. My delicious Annalie. My heart. My soul. My song. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annalee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me, to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annalee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me, coveted her and me. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annalee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we. And neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annalee. For the moon never beams without bringing dreams of the beautiful Annalee. And the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of beautiful Annalee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, my beautiful Annalee, in her tomb by the sounding sea, by the sounding sea.
June 3rd, 2015. Dear Asher, you'll be happy to know that Plan B failed. They caught me. June 4th, 2015. Dear Asher, I don't really want to talk about it. I have to, I know I do. But I'm doing it with gritted teeth, just so you know. Around 10 last night, exactly 12 hours or so ago, I was in Mom and Dad's car, sitting in the back seat, staring out the window at the passing streetlights. Arms crossed. I didn't look at either of them. I was too mad. I don't know who the hell I was more mad at. Them for finding me or me for getting found. I was 2 steps away from getting on that ferry. From being gone forever. I bought the ticket in advance, stowed some money away, packed a bag, made myself a sandwich, bought snacks for the road. By the time I got in the cab and gave my ticket to the ferry staff, Mom and Dad were there. I saw their blinding headlights before I saw the shape of the family car. A part of me was surprised to see them, I think. Obviously, they tracked my stupid ass down after reading my letter, but I thought I'd have more time. Just a little more time. But I didn't get to the house or the island like I planned. I didn't even get on the goddamn ferry. The R&B station played some of Brandy's older songs from that album I like. You know the one. Dad drummed his fingers to it. Not happily, but to do something with his hands. Mom tried to keep her crying to a minimum, but she couldn't help herself. She was the first among us to speak. "What were you thinking?" she said. Her voice wasn't as harsh as it should have been. I said nothing. How could you?" Her voice broke. Reminded me too much of how she acted at your funeral. I pressed my hands against my eyes to prevent the tears from spilling out. What the hell does she want me to say? Dad turned off the radio and awkwardly cleared his throat. He was about to say something uncomfortable. I braced myself. "Kiddo," he began hesitantly, and I flinched. He didn't actually call me kiddo. "Today has been a lot for everyone." I scoffed at that. Couldn't help it. "But we're gonna have to talk about what you wrote. Your friend Judith wasn't doing well before we came to get you." My face felt so hot in that air-conditioned car. I told him there was nothing else to say. Whatever they wanted to say next, I didn't want to hear it. I would combust right there. Months of built-up tears if any of them said another word. "Pull in here," Mom said to Dad. He pulled into the front parking lot of some bank that was closed for the night. Mom unbuckled her seatbelt and I followed suit. In spite of my sandwich and gas station snacks, I had no appetite. And yet my stomach hurt. My body couldn't make up its mind. Neither I nor Dad registered what Mom was doing. If I had, I would have stopped her. She climbed into the back with me. It was too late to scramble away. I wasn't fast enough. She seized me in a hug. She pulled me into her chest, my cheek against the edges of her collarbone. I couldn't escape, and she ignored my pleas of, "Mom, Mom. Don't you dare do that to us again," she whispered sharply. "You hear me? We were worried sick, and I thought, your father thought." Her tears landed on me. She took my cheeks between her hands and held firm when I tried to move away again. She said my name and her body jolted with how hard I flinched against her. "Look at me. Look at me. You're all we got. Do you understand? You have a good life here, and your father and I love you so much. More than words can say. Maybe we didn't tell you that enough." Mom wiped a tear from my eye. I choose to believe it belonged to her. "You're my precious girl," she continued. "And you're so strong. But you don't need to be all the time. Not when you have us." She sniffed and gave me a watery smile. "Let us carry that weight. It's what we're meant to do." I thought of Jude. How worried and sad she probably was. How much she was beating herself up over not seeing the signs sooner. I knew she would, and that only made me feel worse. Still kind of does. Mom wiped another one of her tears. God, what a fucking mess I've made. "I should have noticed something was wrong." Mom sobbed some more. I let her cry into me. It was the least I could do. I could have commented that she was making this about her, but that would only make her feel worse. She wasn't a perfect mom, but she wasn't a bad one either. She was just a mom. Our mom. I held her as tightly as she held me, as if doing so would fix us both. "I don't want to lose you too," she said, and like a dam she broke. Dad was on the other side of her in an instant. I didn't even hear him move. He rubbed Mom's back with one hand, and we both let her cries fill the silence for a while. There's something I should have told you about my Uncle Clayton months ago, Dad said quietly. You and Asher. With his free hand, he handed me an envelope. It was already torn open and yellowed at the corners, the inside containing sheets of fine paper neatly folded in to fit. Your grandfather wasn't the emotional type, Dad continued. We didn't talk about certain things. That's just how it went when I was your age. But he mailed this to me before he died. Said he wanted me to know the truth about his brothers, no matter how hard it was to hear. I took the papers out. They were letters. Can't say I know why your grandfather would wait until he was on his deathbed to tell me, Dad said. But I can't claim to know what went on in that man's head. He was a puzzle I just couldn't solve. He laughed dryly, and another stretch of quiet came over him. Then he said slowly, I shouldn't have assumed. I hoped you two wouldn't be so similar. He swallowed thickly and continued, his voice even quieter. I wanted to talk about it. Him, Clay, after the vacation was over, but he swallowed again. Things changed. Watering. His eyes were watering, but Dad didn't blink them away like I thought he would, like I would have, like I did. I keep seeing you as my little girl, Dad said. I forget that you aren't anymore. You're growing up, going through things. I've read what's in that envelope a couple times myself. It's heavy stuff. I don't want what's in there to scare you. Clay's neat handwriting stared back at me. My eyes skimmed the first page. The year was written at the top. 1920. Dad said, read it at your own pace, on your own time. I'm not saying it'll be smooth reading, but it's important, okay? I nodded. I lifted my eyes from the page and waited for him to say more. He hesitated for a minute and settled on, if there's anything you want to talk about, anything at all, your mother and I are here for you. Even when things get tough, we'll be here. The car fell silent. Dad comforted Mom until she stopped shaking. I curled into her like the child I still felt I was and let her hold me properly. We stayed like that for a while, the three of us. I like to think your ghost joined us in that bank parking lot, Ash. It makes everything easier if I imagine you there, too. No one said much of anything when we got home. Mom and Dad gave me one last hug before bed. Mom kissed my forehead and said, no more closed doors for a little while, okay? It wasn't a question. It was the closest thing I got to an actual punishment. They both waited until I got in my room to move to the kitchen to talk. With my door open, I heard parts of the conversation faintly. I don't know if I did the right thing, Dad said. You did the best you could, Mom said. We both did. I could almost hear Dad shaking his head. No, he said. The letter, it's nonsense. Clayton mentions an attic in that house, but it's nonsense. We've never had an attic. I went to bed with a smile on my face. Maybe Clay and I weren't so different after all. June 5th, 2015. Dear Asher, it's morning and I'm the only one awake. My first night back, I put on your Ninja Turtles pajama pants and passed the hell out. I've been wearing them ever since. Jude is supposed to come over later this week and I'm scared shitless. I didn't think I'd ever see her again, and now my palms are sweating just thinking about it. Clay's letter is sitting on my desk. I've been thinking about that too. Dad said not to rush or read it for his sake. He and Mom have been gentle with me through all this. If I was in a worse mood, I'd say it's a little patronizing being treated like glass, but they have the right. The night they caught me showed me just how afraid they really are. I guess that's also my punishment. being babied for a while, regaining their trust so I can have privacy and be around knives again. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read the letter. I'm gonna go downstairs, get a banana for breakfast and not puke it up, and then I'm gonna read the letter.
September 12th, 1920. To whom it may concern. There's a very old story that I think about quite a lot. It goes like this. A boy lives on a farm with his mother, father, and little brother. They and God are all he has, all he knows. Then, out of jealousy for the youngest brother's favored by God, the boy kills his brother and lies to God when he asks where he is. Am I my brother's keeper? The boy asks in response. The boy is exiled and forever marked with a curse. He does not feel guilty for lying, nor does he feel anything other than contempt for his dead brother. There is no version of the story where the boy is not banished from his home, where he's not cursed, where his brother isn't dead. In every version, the boy has paternal blood on his hands, whether he feels guilt or not. There's no good ending to this story, nor will there be for mine. If all goes to plan, by the time you read this letter, I'll be dead, and the curse inflicted upon all Jefferson men will hopefully have died with me. Do not mistake my telling of this story for correlation on my part. There are many traits I share with the treacherous and biblical Cain, but it's important for you to know that I loved my brother. There's never a day where I don't mourn him. Though one could argue the dastardly Cain felt the very same, once. He had a good heart, my brother, and he would have been an even better man had I let him. That doesn't mean he's not haunting me, but it does mean I deserve it. To the few who will miss me most, Ma, Damien, Seth, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. And to you, my dearest brother Abel, I'll see you soon enough. To Abel, it's been 6 years, 1 month, and 26 days since you died. The longest we've been apart was when we were born. Mama didn't tell you this, but I was born 18 minutes and 35 seconds before you were. A very diligent nurse had been keeping count. Mama probably didn't tell you because it didn't matter. We were brothers, and no matter how large the number was, the fact remained the same. It didn't matter, not until now. I see your face sometimes, in mirrors, on clean surfaces, out of the corner of my eye. I see Papa, and a little bit of Mama in there too. But your face is what mixes with mine in the foreground. Like Poe's William Wilson, destroying your reflection tainted mine forevermore. If only there was a way to bring you back so you could hate me for what I've done. Only then would I be cleansed of my sin. But you're not a pastor, and this is not a confessional. You are forever adolescent, my kind younger brother, and this is nothing more than a goodbye. There's no amount of repenting I can do to bring you back. I fear that you could not hate me, even if you tried. I think you have the right to know the events that promptly and gradually occurred after your passing. It's, I think, the least I can do. They never found your body, but what happened was clear enough. You drowned, plain and simple. This is what I told them anyway. Mama was never the same after that. Papa was angrier than ever, but it was not much different from how he was before. This time, though, I had no one to shield from his wrath. This new version of Mama no longer needed saving, especially from me. Papa resented me for what happened to you, though he never learned the truth. No one did. I was just the easiest thing for him to hate. I would never be the man he tried to raise us both to be. He knew what I was, what I am. He tried to beat it out of me, but there was no getting rid of it. Papa didn't have the money to do that. And the alternative? Abel? The alternative was to get rid of me.
Papa would have liked that, I'm sure. But Mama wouldn't have let him. And deep down, under all that righteous rage, was a mountain of untouched grief. Grief a real man like him couldn't show. Not to Mama or to God himself. So what did Papa do?
He went to war.
I'm no Cain. I've spent 6 years, 1 month, and 26 days regretting what I've done. My guilt has made a home in me.
And I will lay my head on its blighted pillows soon enough. But until the deed is done, keep haunting me, Abel. Damn my soul and seal my fate as you wish. I only want to be with my little brother again. To Mama, I'm sorry I never told you what truly became of your son. It was a selfish act, I confess. I was so young then, I didn't want you to hate me too.
The year of 1917, the single year we spent without Papa, was harder for you than it was for me. It is hard to miss a man who would kill me with his bare hands if it meant I was no longer what I am. His absence, as you can imagine, didn't bother me much. I welcomed it, in fact. But you, Mama, you collapsed in on yourself. I was younger than I ought to have been. I couldn't carry the weight of your loneliness. It was too much, too heavy. I wanted to leave that house. Without Abel and without Papa, I will admit, it wasn't a home. We both knew that. Then, inexplicably, you settled. You got used to life without Papa, and you used that year to be free. Every day you came home with aching fingers from stenotyping and made sure I'd eaten and finished my schoolwork. Despite everything, I excelled in my studies and showed promise in my extracurriculars. Teachers were pleasantly surprised at my intellect and my never-ending hunger for knowledge, stating so in my report cards. But you already knew that, Mama. It is the most remarkable trait I inherited from you. You were coming into your own that year. You may not have noticed, but I did. Seth was born before Papa came back. He has your thoughtful eyes and Abel's eyebrows, and my nose, but nothing of Papa's. Strange. I recalled the days he came home later than he usually did. Not quite disheveled, but not quite put together either. The mornings that followed, when you spent the first waking hours by the toilet, the times when our new neighbor, Mr. Talbot, accompanied you to the market on the weekends, Mr. Talbot who helped me with my studies, Mr. Talbot who has dimples when he smiles with all his teeth. Seth showed whenever he laughed, and he shared the former's high yellow skin, but Seth had nothing of Papa. You may not have known that I knew, but I did. I didn't say a word. I had no reason to. Mr. Talbot treated you nice. It's nice to see you happy, Mama. Even with Abel gone, that means you'll be happy when I'm gone too. Papa came back different. He didn't like to talk about how, never explained it in full, but I took educated guesses. The horrors of war reflected in his good eye, and it's hard to look at him for too long. It's hard not to pity him. The same man who didn't hesitate to lay a hand on me sat unmoving in a wheelchair most of the day, a faraway look on his face. I cannot help but think I caused it somehow. Papa's desperate need to prove his manhood was born from the fact that one of his sons is dead, and the other is me. He wanted me to join the war effort when I came of age. We had an argument about it, Papa and I. He didn't do too much of that when he returned, but he thought a loaded rifle and a service uniform would make me into a real man. I'm far from that now. Look what good it did him. You didn't want me to go to war, Mama. And you didn't want me to move to the city. You wanted me to attend the local college, further my education. You remarked that I would perhaps meet a nice girl, and I gave you a sad smile in return. I didn't believe you, but I think a part of me was terrified that you were right. You didn't want me to be miserable. I understand that now, somewhat. You were afraid of me, afraid of what people might do if... You didn't talk about it, but it hung in silence during our suppers and those nights we were both so sad we couldn't sleep. It didn't need to be said. What I was, to you, was plain as day. You didn't beat me. You didn't hug me less. I am still your son. And beyond that, there was nothing more to say. The day I packed to leave for Boston, you stopped by my room after you put Seth down for a nap. You smoothed over my wrinkled bed sheets. Do you remember what you said to me then, Mama? Be careful, you said. You weren't looking at me. And keep to yourself, will you? For your own sake. No matter how much times have changed, they'd love any reason to string you up. Don't give them one. Do you remember what I said to you? I said I won't, Mama. I won't. I wasn't looking at you either. To Damien. Where do I even start? The last thing on my mind was ever meeting a man like you. But I suppose God grants even the most wretched creatures among us something to live for, however brief. I must confess, when I got far enough away from home, I decided against going to college at all. I was too indecisive on what I wanted to study, and I wanted to experience life in the city. I kept to myself, got an unassuming job as a chauffeur, and rented a little apartment off Tremont Street with the money my mother gave me. There weren't too many libraries I could go to in my area, but once I ventured outside the safety of my neighborhood, I found a plethora, including yours. I won't rehash the whole song and dance of our meeting, but you'll perhaps be delighted to know that I had struggled greatly with keeping to myself when I first saw you. Tall, dark, and admittedly very handsome. You were pushing a cart overflowing with books and returning them to their proper places. And when you looked up from your task, your eyes met mine. You smiled. Your glasses were taped together at the bridge then, remember? A feeling took hold of me. One I'd felt around schoolboys my age, but with you, I wasn't expecting to feel it again. It's foolish to say, I know, but I thought I would have grown out a bit in my adulthood. That was not the case. So what did I do with these feelings? Well, I did what I'd done countless times in my youth. I did my damnedest to never cross your path. A purely logical approach, of course. But, of course, that didn't last long. Our lives had intersected in the smallest of ways. But as much as I avoided you at every turn, we collided eventually. In the ruthless heat of June, you woke me from a slumber I didn't remember taking. My job had become more demanding as summer began, and after work I went to the library to take solace in the quiet. As a result, I fell asleep, but you woke me up and told me sheepishly that I'd slept past the library's opening hours. The building was entirely dark, and everyone that was there when I was awake had gone, except you. Imagine my surprise. You scared me, not just then, but in general. More than I can admit. You offered to walk me home, which I declined, but you took the time to put the selection of books I hoarded back in their proper shelves. You were only doing your job, but it was that night that the thought of you followed me home, and you kept me up for the rest of the night. Weeks later, you caught up to me after your shift as I walked home. I was used to carrying around large books by now, but that didn't mean I didn't struggle. You offered to carry one, then two, then three. And like a soldier, I held out as long as I could, but like a soldier, I surrendered. The city was fairly new to me, so you took it upon yourself to show me all your favorite places, and all the places worth going to. In those months of friendship, I took the time to study you during our outings. You were very good with people. Even the white folk laughed at a few of your jokes. And you had a tendency to smile when you were nervous. It's part of your charm. There was never a time where you didn't smile when you were with me. A favorite outing of mine was no outing at all. Our wine and read nights. Cooking dinner together, uncorking a bottle of wine, and reading to one another. I'd become fond of fairy tales long before we met, but other than books on architecture and anatomy of houses, that was mostly what I read. Whimsical stories that end in tragedy were narratives I'd come to know very well. Perhaps all too well. Reading them reminds me of my brother and the stories I read him before his illness took him. It's a bittersweet experience, you see, but it's one I've come to embrace, piece by piece. I regret not telling you more about him. Our wine and reads were simple. So simple it had become routine. It was also disgustingly domestic, but just platonic enough we could feign ignorance as to why we didn't stop. And I didn't want to stop. It was easy not to question the things you did, the things you said. I shared friends with my brother in our youth, but I never had friends of my own. I couldn't let myself. Our friendship ended sometime in September, after my father passed. He couldn't survive the sickness that swept through our little town, the flu that still lingers to this day. I was to go back home and help my mother with the arrangements, but you invited me to your house the night before. I remember that night very well. You said you had a gift for me. In a bout of unexpected grief, all the energy that wasn't dedicated to my hygiene and work had ceased to exist. As a consequence, I didn't see you much at all. I came to your home to find dinner had already been made and wine already poured. I brought no reading material with me, but that's where your gift came in. You read your favorite book, The Odyssey, in its entirety to me. I needn't do a thing but listen. As you read your book to me quietly and slowly, I could have wept at the sickeningly tender way you handled me. You turned the pages of my grief with delicate fingers, mindful not to tear the crumbling pages. I thought of Abel and came apart halfway through. Your mom gave you that book when you were young, before her passing. You kept it ever since. The book was well loved, almost coming apart when you held it. As if I couldn't adore you more than I already did. I didn't think I would shed a tear when my father died. I missed the man he was before he discovered what I am, and not the mean man he became as a result. I cried until I had nothing left, and you held me until I felt well enough to sit up on my own. You went over to your phonograph and put on a record. You shuffled your feet and snapped your fingers to the beat like you'd heard it 1,000 times. You extended a hand to me. Do you remember what you asked me, Damien? If you do, then you remember my answer. I took your hand and we danced. I had 2 left feet, so to speak, and you weren't coordinated enough to be a professional dancer by any means. But we made it work. We fit together. By the end of the song, my cheeks hurt from grinning. Those same damn feelings bubbled up again. I don't know how you figured it out. I'm not as self-aware as I claim, but we almost... But I couldn't. My father was dead, and I could feel his disappointment beyond the veil. His disgust. I told you we shouldn't. We can't. It's wrong. You nodded then, understanding. Then you asked me something no one dared ask me before. No, we shouldn't, you said. But do you want to? You know my answer. The rest, as they say, is history. There's so much left I want to say, need to say, but no room to say it. I've lost more than I have loved. But as the man I love would surely say, at least you loved. And I did. I did love. I love you. And I pray I don't burn in hell for it. God should know better. I've committed worse sins. I wish things were different. That I was different. I can bear you, but I can't bear what I am. I won't burden you with my quiet shame.
I'd rather die than ask you to walk through the desert with me, as much as I know you want to. I ask only one thing of you, Damien. Once you're through with this letter, burn it. Erase any trace of me. I know you won't want to. I know this will hurt, but you will love again. And you'll have loved more than you have been loved. But you must, for your sake, burn this. See to it that you get it done. To Seth. At the time I'm writing this, you're too young to understand why I've gone away. I'll only be a wisp in your memory, so I'll address this letter to an older you. The one who will be reading this 10, 20, perhaps 30 years from now. Whether you understand me then will be up to you. As for me, I'll have returned to dust from whence I came. I last saw you when you were 2 years old. August 11th, 1920. You were so small, but you were looking more like your father every day. Ma will have to tell you why I find that so funny. We spent an afternoon together while Mama was baking you something sweet for the occasion. I tried to visit home occasionally, but Mama didn't like me being around too long. Said I looked too much like my father. Mama will have to tell you why that makes her so sad. I brought over a children's book for you to keep, Peter Pan, and read it until you got antsy and wanted to play. So we played. I chased you around the house and you ran as fast as your chubby legs could carry you. You laughed so hard your dimples showed and gave yourself the hiccups. Anytime I picked you up, you slapped your chubby hands on my face. And more than once, you tried to put my glasses in your mouth. Each time you did, I would immediately clean them. You tended to drool, but it wasn't your fault. I adored you and your big curious eyes and growing baby teeth. I didn't think I could love someone so quickly and so ferociously. You reminded me so much of Abel, it broke my heart and mended it all the same. I couldn't stand to hold you for long when the thought occurred. I'm telling you this, baby brother, because you were the last thing on my mind as I quit my job, sold my belongings, ended my lease, and snuck the bulk of my earnings where Mama could find it, and the rest to someone I hope you'll never meet. But you were all I could think of when I took the ferry to the vineyard, when I settled into the beach house, and as I write this exceedingly long letter in the attic. I saved you for last because despite what little time we shared, I'll miss you the most. And I must confess something that can't follow me to the grave. I killed our brother Abel. And now, I'll tell you precisely how I did so. 6 years, 1 month, and 26 days ago, in the early hours after midnight, I snuck out of bed for the 3rd time to lift an axe. The reason why doesn't matter. I had something to prove. Someone to prove that wasn't myself for something I was too young to make up for. Once I could lift that damn axe, I could split a log in half. And once that was done, I could fell a tree. And the days I brood in shame over what I was, am, would mean nothing. And I could be worth something. I was alone in the woods, and I planned to slip back into bed before too much time had passed as I'd done those previous nights. But Abel was there, hidden among the brush. He stared at me from a distance, eyes almost unblinking. He staggered forward, his bare feet covered in mud and dirt from the forest pathways. Abel was very sick at the time, you understand? So sick, in fact, that he could barely rise to drink a glass of water, or relieve himself on his own. But he was there, before me, sweat-drenched and breathing alarmingly slow. He shouldn't have been able to walk such a distance. I went for him, the axe firmly in the wood. I'm sure I looked very pathetic to him then, but I reminded myself that he was ill. I needed to get him back inside before we both found trouble. I told him as much and ushered him out of the clearing. He didn't budge. I repeated myself more urgently this time. He made no effort to move, and when I tried to move him myself, I made no progress. I had thought Abel was simply rebelling after being bedridden for so long. Oh, how wrong I was. He grasped my arm and said in a voice I was so sure wasn't his own, "Join me." I stammered something out, confused, and he said it again.
Join me.
He squeezed my arm tight and with a jerk walked me toward the edge of the clearing. His eyes were different. Empty. Vacant. He was a stranger to me. His iron grip was inescapable, and in a panic I pushed him. Hard. And we both went prone. A part of me felt guilty for how rough I'd been in his fragile state, but he recovered quickly, brushed himself off, and lunged at me with a feral quickness I didn't know he possessed. I scrambled on my hands and knees back to the center of the clearing, back to the log, back to the axe. I grabbed a hold of the handle as Abel grabbed a hold of my leg. He pulled and thrashed me around like a dog, bruising my stomach against the stump and digging his nails into my ankle.
Join me,
he said again.
Join me so we can both be free. Join me so we can both hear her song.
He had mentioned hearing something in his delirium, but this I couldn't make sense of. Do not resist, he said. I felt something in my ankle twist, then pop. I bit my lip and swallowed the urge to cry out. I knew that whatever beast was trying to tear my ankle from its socket with its bare hands and was speaking nonsense was not my brother. Abel would never hurt me. Not like this. Not unprovoked. The force of his strength and my sturdy grip made the axe come free at last. I kicked at the beast with my other leg and caught it off guard and escaped. My ankle would be swollen by the time this was done, but that didn't matter. The beast wore Abel's skin to trick me, perhaps. Perhaps it ate him and aimed to eat me too. I didn't know. I couldn't know. All I knew was that in the stories I read, a boy became a man when he slayed a beast, and once the deed was done, everything would go back to normal. Everything would be right with the world. So what did I do, baby brother? I slayed the beast. Like an expert woodsman, I lifted the mighty axe above my head, almost tipping backwards with its weight, and split the log that was the beast's face. Blood splattered on my face, shirt, and glasses. Its eyes went dark, and I heard its death rattle, its final word.
Clay.
I fell to my knees. No beast would have uttered my name. Not like that. There was no beast. Whatever had inhabited Abel's body was gone, and all that was left was... I won't tell you the rest. I'll instead have you imagine this. Me throwing the axe aside, bits of brain matter latching on my clothes, my mouth wide open in a silent scream. Abel's eyes, wide open with shock. The right side of his face cracked, revealing the inside of his skull, the stained ground below him as blood and salt water leaked out of him. My hands covered in blood. His blood. A tale as old as time. Fratricide. A fairy tale gone wrong. A foolish attempt at glory. And now you know my terrible secret. My greatest sin. I left you with one less brother, and now once I've properly dressed and sealed up these letters, you'll be without another. I hope this will help when you feel led astray, baby brother. Don't follow in my footsteps.
Live to grow old and don't die young as I have.
I brought as many books as I could carry into the attic, and I've stored Abel's journal and the tail end of my research here as well. I hope you never have to find them. I hope you can one day forgive me. Sincerely, Clay Jefferson.
Dear Asher, I don't want to die. June 8th, 2015. Dear Asher, I asked Dad what else he knew about Clayton, if he had any idea what happened after his letters were sent. He said that the only thing he can say for sure is that Clay had given away or sold most of his personal belongings like he said he did, and his body was never found when authorities searched the premises. He was last seen by a couple of witnesses in the area, but nothing was done about it. A young black man missing in the 20s wouldn't call for much investigation, I guess. Especially one who was black and gay. I asked Dad how Grandpa Seth got a hold of the letter addressed to Damien, and he said he didn't know. I assume it found its way to your great-grandmother somehow, he said with a shrug. So Damien didn't burn the letter after all. Mom thought it was very romantic, but it just makes me want to cry all over again. There was written proof that Clay took his own life, or planned to. And that calms me more than the thought of something else happening. Something worse. To think our family really is cursed. Grandpa Seth got lucky, but maybe that's because he wasn't a twin. Dad isn't a twin either. Is that what the curse is rooted in? Twins? Does that mean I'm doomed too? No. Clay implied that the curse only affected the Jefferson boys and men. And if that's the case, then nothing bad will happen to me. Because I'm a girl, aren't I? Who the hell am I kidding? I don't even believe it enough to lie about it anymore. That's all I've been doing, Ash. Lying to you. Lying to myself. I don't care that you're dead. I don't want to keep lying. It's exhausting. It was so easy not to think about why I hate looking at myself. Why I hate my chest. Why I can't connect to other girls like Mom assured me I would someday. I don't think I ever will. Not because I don't want to. I tried, believe me. But because I'm not a girl. I did some digging online and I think I know what's wrong with me now. Why I feel so different. I'm transgender. I'm a trans boy, guy, man? No, trans guy is more right, probably. So, yeah, that's the truth. I'm trans. And honestly, Ash, I'm fucking terrified. I've been fighting it all on my own for so long, man. It feels weird to write it down. Really, really weird, but good, I think. I haven't told anyone yet. Just you. And myself, I guess. It's not much, but it's a start. I still feel stupid for getting caught, but I'm not repeating Plan B anytime soon. I meant what I said, Ash. I don't want to die. Mom and Dad are going to have me see Miss Ortega regularly, rather than stick me in some inpatient facility or whatever. Can't really complain. They're thinking about maybe getting me on meds or something. I'm trying not to think about it. Your glasses sit on my desk, right next to where I keep my camera. Thought it'd be the best place to put them. It feels like you're here, watching me as I write this. I wonder if Grandpa Seth kept Clay's glasses too, or if it was just a letter. Guess I can't blame him either way. What Clay said about the story of Cain and Abel. I don't feel like Cain either. I don't get his apathy or his guiltless murder. But I do think the name is fitting for me, in a way. I was older than you by a whole 10 minutes, Ash, though that might not have mattered much to you if you were alive. If I were to choose a new name, it'd be that. It sounds badass, which is a bonus, and I think in an ironic way you would like it. I'll keep writing to you until I can't anymore. I don't have any more backup plans, just the rest of my life. In the meantime, keep haunting me. Please. From your brother, the modern-day Cain.
I was so worried you weren't answering me, and then I came over and I saw your letter and I couldn't hear. I was so scared, and then your parents called me and...
I know.
Don't leave me. Losing Asher was not you too.
I
Not
won't.
you too.
Not ever
please.
again. I'm not going anywhere, I promise. Jude, I have to tell you something.
Episode 13 features Ricky Clairvoyant as narrator, Pollux as young Cain, Alyssa Roldan as young Judith, Darian as Clayton Jefferson, and Justine Leah Hintz as the Siren. Deadwood is a podcast written and created by Saniyah Hill and co-produced by McKenna Fulgham. This episode was co-written and edited by Daniela Vega Labrador, J.E Berkowsky, and Meaghan McDonald. The audio editing was done by Jasmine Griffiths. The music is by Julius H., and the lovely cover art is by Cinna. You can find Deadwood on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Blue Sky, or you can send a message to our email at deadwoodpod@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. The beginning starts at the end.